good morning, and thank you for this introduction. I also would like to thank Karina and Olga and Noel for all the help and for this invitation. This is my first time in this country, and I had wonderful time. Met a lot of wonderful, kind people. So thank you so much. As Noel mentioned, I'm the director of Learning Design and Solutions at Empire State College. I'm sorry, university. We actually switched after moving from Moodle to Brightspace. After that, we switched from college to university, which was another big project. So Empire Line, our office includes approximately 30 people, and we have instructional designers, instructional technologists. They do instructional design, but they also provide training, resources, and we have multimedia designers, project manager, support staff, DLE admins, just to give you some background on our office. And I'm doing a click. So, and as Noel mentioned, I'm here to share our experience of moving from Moodle, which we actually considered an LMS, learning management system, because it was mostly for course management with some tools, to Brightspace, which we call DLE, Digital Learning Environment, because it's more of a bigger environment with a lot of plugins, third-party tools, and other add-ons. And I'll share our lessons learned, good and bad, and also the next steps that we've taken. So our journey began with moving from Moodle to Brightspace, but we started looking at different LMS even before doing it together with the whole SUNY system. And why we did it is because our Moodle contract was up for renewal, and as a public institution, we need to review all available products, compare them in terms of price, functionality. So that was even before COVID. We had a university-wide committee, various checklists, checking functionalities, not only in terms of technical, but pedagogy too, and supports for students, policies, and we looked at Canvas at the time, Blackboard Ultra, Moodle, of course, Brightspace, and I don't remember, there might have been something else, but even at that time, as our own university, without SUNY, we picked Brightspace. At the same time, though, SUNY was going through a similar process. They were on Blackboard, and they were supporting a number of other campuses that were also on Blackboard, and they ended up picking Brightspace as well. And Brightspace has the option of this multi-tenant environment, and I'll explain it in a moment. So we decided, for the economies of scale and resource sharing purposes, to go into Brightspace together as a system. So a little bit about SUNY. SUNY has 64 campuses spread across New York State. It includes 2-year community colleges, 4-year technology colleges, universities like my university, and also 4 research university centers. Some of them were using Blackboard, some were using Canvas. We used Moodle. There were some other campuses using Moodle, and some actually were using Brightspace by that time. And that's Empire State College, University, I'm sorry. Empire State University also has numerous locations, but we don't have locations like this. We don't have lecture halls. Our locations mostly offices for faculty members to come in and possibly meet with their students. For staff, we have some computer labs for students to come in. Number of students that hasn't been updated. As of today, there are 18,000 students enrolled at our university. And we are primarily online. Over 90% of our credits are issued through an online delivery mode of study. And when I mean online, I hear like synchronous, asynchronous. For us, online is a fully asynchronous mode. We can offer, as instructors, we can offer office hours through Microsoft Teams and other technologies, but overall, the expectation that the course is fully asynchronous. 123 fully online programs and growing. We started offering our first doctorate program just a couple of years ago, and I'm sure the number of programs will just continue to grow. A little bit about our students. The average age, I think a few years ago it was about 37. We are getting a bit more younger people now, but overall we are working with adult students, all the adults, who are, many of them first generation students. It means that they're first in their family to go to college, university, so they don't have any support possibly explaining how to apply, how to study. It's their first time experience in the whole generation. At least 50% of them have families, kids. 50% work full time. 85% work part time. And statistics are not wrong. I think 85 includes 50. So what it means is that our students, many of them, they've been out of school for many years. Many of them may not be using technology or computers daily for their jobs. So they're coming in and they're doing online studies. They need easy access, they need easy navigation, they need full support, probably 24/7, 7 days a week, because the only time they have for studies might be at nighttime, Sunday evening, and unfortunately, education is not the main priority for them because they have other important things going on in their lives, family, kids, bills to pay. So what it means for us is that we need to make sure that we support them fully. And when we switched from Moodle to Brightspace, we needed to ensure that it was as seamless as possible and no disruptions to students and to faculty. So it was 2022 when we decided to move together with SUNY, 64 campuses, that's a big number. So all campuses were broken down into 3 cohorts. We were in cohort 1. You can't see all the campuses, but there are approximately 20 of them. That was cohort 1. There were multiple meetings with SUNY, Central, D2L. Brightspace is the same name of Desire to Learn, D2L, so I may use them interchangeably. And I think I'm not going to go through the timeline in detail, but I think the analogy I can give you about this move, if you look at the multi-tenant environments like an apartment, and all of us, we have our own apartment building, we have our own apartments where we get our own Brightspace instance, and we can have our own branding. We can decide on certain settings within our own instance, set our own permissions for faculty and students within the Brightspace. However, there's still certain elements at that apartment level that are set by the central DLE administrators. So SUNY Central had to have their own DLE office. They have their own IT support desk to support campuses that would like that service. And they have their own data analytics person to work with that whole massive data coming from all the campuses. So a lot of work went into that. For our campus, each campus handled conversion on their own, meaning moving, copying courses and making sure that they function properly. For us, the timeline, when we got into Brightspace, my team, it was April, and we had till July to move everything and fix everything and adjust. And if you decide to move from Moodle to Brightspace or Blackboard to Brightspace, there will be some things that won't work well. For instance, there are no wikis in Brightspace, so you need to figure out what to do with these learning activities when you move course from one place to another. Certain things broke, and we're actually lucky that I think it was Plattsburgh, one faculty member from Plattsburgh developed a software to help convert course from Moodle to Brightspace. So it was more seamless. So that's actually a benefit of that, being part of the system and working with other campuses, because you get additional resources. In terms of what we've done on our campus, we've established 5 committees: communication, technical, training, pedagogy, and practice. Each committee had a lot of faculty members on them. That was extremely important that we would involve faculty members. Steering committee consisted of the co-chairs from each of these committees, and then more senior leadership, and it helped us to communicate, set the kind of strategy, and set priorities for all these committees. And so communication is obvious. They drafted all the communication, planned communication to students, faculty, university community, published a website. Everything was transparent, dates, what's going on, how it's happening. Training committee, even though SUNY Central provided a lot of training resources and support, we still had to develop our own because we have our own IT support desk. We established our own permissions, templates, and everything else. Technical worked with SUNY Central on establishing the course creation process. We developed actually our own in-house course creation software, and they worked on organizational structure for our Brightspace instance and did all this back-end work. And pedagogy and practice, the committee that I co-chaired together with another faculty member, we've worked on developing recommendations when it comes to pedagogy, settings within Brightspace, permissions for faculty and adjuncts. And this committee has done amazing contributions. That's what made this process actually, I think, more less stressful and more useful for our university and for quality of our courses. One of the things that this committee has done is developed syllabus framework. So within the university, we have different schools, as you have probably everywhere. School for Graduate Studies. Within undergraduate school, we have business school, arts and humanities, etc. And while these schools try to be consistent within their schools and have the same resources, syllabus, they differed among each other in Moodle. So it means if students were taking a course in business and then would take a course in arts and humanities, their syllabus would look different. Resource would be placed in a different location. So the committee worked on developing one framework that aligned with the policy, that syllabus was approved by the provost, and the communication went out, but then it just sat there. So the committee, with this transition, made a recommendation and a request to our team to implement the syllabus, because we were touching every course pretty much through this transition when moving them from Moodle to Brightspace. And we've done this, and we've implemented it. We put it in every course as redesign the syllabus in every course, and I'll go into benefits in a few more slides. Another part too, that committee worked on developing course navigation menus. So as I mentioned, that analogy, apartment building, so each campus had their own branding and can decide on their layout in terms of the dashboard and menus inside each course. This committee helped to establish the menus, the titles. We worked with library, academic support, IT to decide what goes where, how it should be titled to be most useful to students. And we also decided that we're going to have one consistent layout for the whole university. In Moodle, we had some variations, but in Brightspace, we made this change and made it one consistent university-wide layout. Permissions to our full-time faculty, they have more editing permissions in Brightspace, but we also use a lot of adjunct instructors, and they're hired to teach. They're not paid to develop courses, so they need to have fully developed, nicely designed courses, and their permissions are limited to setting due dates, grading, providing feedback, to teaching. And the committee also helped to go through item by item and help us determine what needs to be done, what kind of permission they should be given. And it was good because on that committee, we have a lot of faculty members who supervise adjunct instructors. So they know their needs and what they need to be able to do to teach. Once we were out of this heavy transition work, the committee worked on developing generative AI syllabus statements, the permission, one of them is kind of a template that instructors can use in the syllabus, stating that if the students are allowed to use it, but how also explains how, and another option I think might be required too. They also, the committee worked on updating our academic integrity quiz with the AI, generative AI questions and some other information, drafted first communication. Anyways, they've done a lot of wonderful stuff, and they've done so much good that the committee became a permanent committee, and now we have an official charge. We are working in consultation with the provost and providing support to the provost and actually to my office. A lot of decisions that we make or ideas were run by this committee, faculty members before we implement, and then we'll also get a buy-in from them when we go and communicate to the whole university. So let's get back to the conversion. In numbers, snapshots, if you look at that almost 1,700 number, that was the number of courses that we moved as the files, cartridges, more like kind of technical. On the right side, 1377, that's the number of the courses that my team actually went in and went through page by page to address all the issues, including renaming, changing Moodle word to Brightspace, and fixing other things. The difference between, so 692 is part of that number, that's master courses. I don't know if you're familiar, we use term master course model or adjunct ready model. So 700 courses, one of them, let's say, is college algebra. And that's one course, it's locked. It has a faculty supervisor. It's fully accessible, developed with best practices. And it's the same version then if there's 7 or 10 sections offered this fall, for instance, the same content is copied into these 7 sections. It offers quality, consistency in grading, in teaching. So these courses we went, they required a lot of work because we oversee these courses and we have more, you may say, authority to go and clean them up and fix them. The other half of that 1,300, a lot of those courses were faculty owned, School for Graduate Study faculty members, they own their content, so we would fix things that were broke from Moodle to Brightspace, but if there was something else going on, like syllabus framework, we wouldn't go and redesign their syllabus without their permission. We added it just as a template. That goes into that we had different schools with different business rules, so we had to respect that and follow that too. Another good thing our former provost asked our office to implement to ease the burden on our faculty, this whole process, is to make sure that we go in and help everyone instead of having them ask us for help. So they had to actually opt out if they didn't want us to touch their course. And we had, I think, only a handful of faculty members who submitted a form and said, nope, I'm going to do it myself. Our university trainings could not be required for staff and students, so what we've done, we've developed a lot of asynchronous resources, but also once we got close to that first term in Brightspace, we offered a lot of office hours for students and faculty, and not only during the work day, like 9 to 5, that's our usual business day, but we offered office hours at nighttime, I think even during the weekend, so our adjunct instructors and students could come in when they had time. As I mentioned, we initially, now we have 30 or so team members. At that time, we had 20 plus. So we're given additional funds to hire, I believe, 4 part-time people for that transition time. They weren't all instructional designers, but they had experience with LMS, so they could help with that copy-paste, fixing stuff. And as I mentioned, we also have our own IT service desk. Some SUNY campuses, they rely on SUNY's service desk. We have our own, so at the same time, while we're converting, we're also supporting courses in Moodle, because the way of finishing up that summer term. For our team, what it meant is that we had to train before anyone else, and SUNY helped with that. We also got access to Brightspace a bit early, so we had meet weekly, share our experience, troubleshoot sessions. We made them required eventually. We developed checklists. That's extremely important. I actually have a printout here where we documented every step, what didn't convert, what had to be fixed. Develop project management process. We use Airtable for our project management. So it helped us assign people, track the process, see what's going on. Then we communicated, our communication group used that information to communicate to the university what's going on and where we're at during this project. And process refinement, initially we're trying to be perfect. We were hoping that we're gonna have one person converting a course and then we're gonna have a peer reviewer. It didn't happen. We ran out of time, so we just stuck with the one person converting, another person. Actually, it's not a person. We had a small group. We called them tier 2. So if something required too much work, let's say if quizzes had to be fixed, then the first person could flip that project to the tier 2 group to spend more time on it. That was our initial workflow for our team, how to convert each course. We've used spreadsheets and Airtable to keep track and follow the process. That's an example of just a view of the checklist. Overall, we had 34 items. These are just some examples from there, what we had to do. If anyone would like to get the copy of this checklist, please email me, I'll share. By the time you make a move, you may have different items, but it's a good way to organize the process. Checklists are wonderful. So it took us 4 months. We've done it. We were on time, and all our courses were ready for fall. And what we've learned is that this process, while it was stressful, it actually offered a lot of good opportunities. Because we touched every course, and it doesn't happen very often, luckily. We've addressed a lot of long-standing issues in our courses. Before Moodle, we're in Angel, and you would be surprised even years later there were still links to Angel or mentioning that stuff. So we're able to capture that, fix that, offered standardized course layouts and navigation. As I mentioned, we've improved consistency comparing to Moodle. A syllabus framework, that was a big achievement because number one thing when we meet with students, they ask, well, where do I find this? Where do I find that? And they really shouldn't be asking that. They should just be able to go in and start learning. We've also developed a new course template. We had one in Moodle, but the one in Brightspace, we spend a lot more time. It's more consistent, better aligned with our best practices. Refine the knowledge base. Knowledge base is the set of documents sitting in our ticketing service. It's all about how to do things in Brightspace for faculty, adjunct instructors, and students. And back in Moodle, I don't know why, but it was decided that screenshots were not going to be used for how to, and you can imagine trying to figure out how to do something without visually seeing where to click. So we fixed that. We cleaned up the whole knowledge base, completely revised it, improved it. Overall improved student experience in online course because of that consistency and better resources. Teaching tools, comparing to Moodle, I think Brightspace offers more, and not just Brightspace, probably any newer LMS will offer more options. If you are teaching multiple courses in Brightspace, you can go to a quick eval page and all your courses, all submissions that need to be graded will be all in one place. Intelligent agents, that's another interesting tool in Brightspace where you can pre-program communication. So if students didn't submit assignment on time or didn't pass the quiz at a certain level, you can schedule a communication to go out to those students. And it's not only about communication, you can also set different views and have a quick glimpse at different data points too, insights and what's going on in your course. Student progress too, to see when they logged in, what's going on. Communication tools, there are discussion boards. We use email heavily too. And another part that it offered is that when we moved from Moodle to Brightspace, we also implemented Microsoft authentication. We didn't have it before, and I just was in North Carolina with my colleagues, and I learned how important it is. We actually had a community college. I don't remember the name. It was in the news that got hacked. Someone hacked them and demanded ransom. So they lost everything in Brightspace. And they actually have lecture halls too. They couldn't even access their elevators or email. They had to go to the local news stations to ask them to communicate to students what's going on. And they had to move to Brightspace very quickly within a week, and then work with the crediting agencies to figure out how to continue. So I'm very glad that we established all these security measures, because it's really important. And also this transition process offered us opportunities to step back and see what are we doing. Everything from course revisions, developments, forms, and improve. We've done a lot of improvements to a lot of things, because I think it just gives you that time to step away and just take a fresh look at things. And of course, the challenges, as you expect: time, learning curve. It's learn new technology tools. We lost certain Moodle customizations and settings. As I mentioned, wikis don't exist in Brightspace. I think books, that's another activity that doesn't exist in Brightspace, so we need to be creative and find ways how to recreate it. We also, in Moodle, we experimented with different HTML and cascading style sheets layouts. We lost some of that too. And of course, was increased workload for everyone. We halted our professional development. We usually have book clubs on my team and other professional development. For that time period, we stopped all of that, obviously, but it's okay. We're back to normal now. So it was 2022, 4 months by fall, we converted fully, and where committees were documenting lessons learned and thinking how to wrap up the committees, except for pedagogy and practice, archiving stuff. So all our policies that we need to keep 7 years of records, so all the courses that were in Moodle, they're still stored somewhere. It's a bit harder to retrieve them, but if something urgent comes up, we were able to do it. But anyways, wrapping it up, we're teaching, learning in Brightspace, and unfortunately we started noticing things that didn't quite work well for us. So now, I think our term started yesterday, we actually are in our own Brightspace environment. We moved from SUNY apartment building into our own home. And so it took us much less time, because we didn't need to touch every course. In terms of the course, it's easy. Most of the work was done on the back end. And you're probably wondering why, right? Why we did it. So again, the reminder, we are online. We are SUNY's leading online institution. That's our home. We have no other place for students to communicate, to learn. And certain issues that came up were too difficult for us to overcome and to offer good support to students. One example is email integration. In a multi-tenant environment, our SUNY Empire Outlook email could not be integrated with Brightspace. So when students send an email from Brightspace to the instructor, instructors will get the email in Outlook, and usually it's probably their phone, and they would go to respond, but it will bounce back because it's a copy. It's not connected to Brightspace. And even I teach, and I know this, but I still, 99% of the time, I still would respond from Outlook, because you want to respond quickly. So that was one reason. Another reason is that students, if they're registered different SUNYs and taken courses, different SUNYs, only one email can be registered in Brightspace. And if students don't change it, let's say if they're full-time with us, but part-time at SUNY Delhi, for instance, and their email might be SUNY Delhi in our courses, and all communication will go to that email, not to their primary email. So that kind of created some issues because for us, email is the main communication tool with our students. Delayed tool access. One of the reasons we picked Brightspace is the availability of LORE, that's Learn Object Repository, that allows for that managing of resources at scale. So for instance, like syllabus framework, it can go into that LORE system and then we can push it out into any course or program, and if we need to make an update, we just do it in one place because it's locked. So it offers a lot of opportunities, especially for a large online institution. Because of the complexities and it's a big tenant system, it's not easy to set up LORE. You need to think carefully how to organize departments. So you can imagine when you have 60 campuses involved, it gets even more complicated. So the work takes a lot longer. There are other tools too that we already bought. We're in our own instance, such as Creator Plus. That tool offers interactive, formative assessments like flashcards and other stuff, and a more interactive way to present content. We already purchased it in multi-tenant environment. It would take longer because of negotiations and agreements. We also bought a Spanish package. We're going to be offering our first business undergraduate degree in Spanish language. So that's done, and so that's another reason. Then data access to, which might be actually a plus for your initiative. So what it means, there is a data hub, and SUNY Central daily admins, they will have access to that data hub, to all the data from all the involved campuses tenants. But what it meant for us is that if we needed something customized, and we usually do, and quickly, we need it in a timely manner, it takes time because you need to go to the central office, request it, and wait for them to work on this. Now we have direct access to our own data hub reports, and we can customize stuff. Then technical resolution delays. As you can imagine, when you have so many campuses to support and ticketing, all the tickets go there, the time is, it takes time unless you can hire hundreds or thousands of people. In our case, we have our own IT desk, and we're quite prompt with responses. If my team gets a ticket, we're supposed to respond within 2 hours and hopefully resolve it. If it takes longer, if we need back and forth more information from faculty, our expected time 2 days usually. But then if we had to go to SUNY to resolve something, obviously that created delays that didn't meet our expected standards. That goes together, I think, with the data and tech support, LTI integration, that third-party tool integration, that had to be handled at central level as well, so it complicated things. Instead of us going directly to the vendor and working with them, we had to go now, too many parties involved to fix something or to implement something. And then complex decision-making, as you can expect, it takes time when you have so many people involved and they need to make a decision. One example, so there are certain things that you can set at your campus level and certain things that are at system level. One example was the course navigation menu. Our committee wanted to rename it, didn't make sense to our students. Something was called calendar or something, didn't make sense. A lot of other campuses agreed, but we still had to meet as campuses, have discussions, vote, make an agreement, and then figure out when to implement it because we all start term at different time. So it took maybe 5 months to implement this versus where it would take us 1 day, maybe 2 weeks if we need to run it by the pedagogy and practice committee. So these are some of the things why we've done it. We moved with the system and then we moved out. And I'm not saying that it's bad or good process. It's just our use case. We're fully online. For us, it just makes sense to be on our own right now. We still work closely with SUNY. We collaborate, share resources, obviously, go to the meetings with them, but we're now in our own Brightspace instance. And I want to take a pause. I've been asked to share some of the post-conversion projects that we're doing right now, but I want to take a moment and just see if there are any questions specifically about the transition.
Any questions? Karina has a question there. Oh, sure.
Thank you. Thanks, Alena. A very challenging and complex transition. I'm just thinking about the data hub reports and the type of data that, what kind of requests were you getting for the data and the learning analytics side of the VLE? What were the expectations that the system could deliver or can deliver? What do you get requests from faculty, or was certain data type reports built into the design of the VLE as to what it would generate? Because I'm sure it could be wide ranging, the requests.
So Brightspace has quite a lot of preset data reports and advanced data reports, but somehow you still need something different. So one example I can give you: at the start of each term, we communicate, it's instructor presence. We go through the data points and see if instructors, they've been in the course, if they set it up correctly, added the dates, announcements, and everything else. With the current and multi-tenant process was kind of manual where we had to grab the spreadsheet and then work with it, and some people actually had to go into courses and check stuff. In Brightspace, they have a data hub and a place where you can connect different pieces of preset tables and create customized reports. So, and SUNY Central, they have a person, they could do it for you, but if you have a lot of people where, they need to get these customized reports, it takes time, versus if you have direct access, you can do it within minutes. We also use data for course revisions, something that we couldn't use in the past year. So usually we have an easy access to course completion rates, equity gaps now, average course grade, but what we found to be really useful is to be able to look at the gradebook level data, and not just, so right now in multi-tenant, I would need to go into each course section, download the spreadsheet from each course section for so many terms, then merge it together, massage it, clean it up, and then work with it. With access to Data Hub, you can build it all at the back end and actually also display it to certain people, to the deans or anyone else you want to write from that Brightspace dashboard area.
Have you seen it support retention? Has there been a better picture on retention and monitoring learners, early interventions, or do you see that the data that you're generating is providing that for faculty? Or
we haven't used it much yet in Brightspace. We've been in there for a year only, but yes. The answer is yes, we've seen it. We have actual academic support. They do an early reach out at the start of the term. It helps a lot, where they see students haven't logged in, they can reach out, provide support, see what's going on. Maybe they haven't gotten a textbook. So it does make a big difference. And we've actually, on the course design side of things, we've seen improvements to, we've run a project, it's team-based, the data-informed project, I called it, where we've worked on some of the high enrollment courses with lower completion rates. So like college writing course that I think it was like at 60 points completion rates, 60%. So we looked at the data at the course level, gradebook data, done some research what other institutions have done, worked with our academic support librarians, that's where the team approach is, and worked with the faculty owner and other instructors teaching it, and redesigned it completely. Broke it down differently, provide more instructions, academic support links within the course, and we've seen significant improvement. It's now above 70% completion rates, and we've done the same project, we've applied the same kind of approach to other courses and seen the same result. Like human biology went up by more than 10%. Human nutrition, some other courses where we have enrollments in high hundreds or thousands. So working with data definitely helps, and that's why we need it, and we need it in a timely manner.
Great, thanks, Lena.
Hi, Alena. I have two questions for you. Could you tell us how long the review process was to pick Brightspace?
The first process, I think I would want to say maybe the whole year. I don't quite remember, but we had a huge university-wide committee. I just remember sitting in a conference room as big as this one, full of people. We were watching presentations by different companies and then sitting with our checklists, evaluating. So it's been a long, extensive process. Looking at everything, settings, course creation process, does it meet our policies? Because we have, FERPA and all the other stuff. You need to look at a lot of things, integration too. Like we use Kaltura for video integration, Turnitin, how does it work with this or that? So it's a long process.
Perfect, thank you. And in the course conversion process, what was the biggest surprise or challenge you faced in relation to what the provider said they could do and the actual reality of that?
I think the amount of work, like I think we're hoping we can just drop the cartridge in and it's gonna be all there, and we just go and clean up, change Moodle word to Brightspace. But then we just kept learning and finding all kinds of different bugs. For instance, for some reason, some quiz answer options, they duplicated for no rhyme or reason. So we need to go through and find that, and some things broke. So I think it's just, do you think you got it all on checklist? We kept changing it quite often because you think you got it all and you find something else.
Perfect, hey, thank you.
Hello, Cormac Allen is my name. I'm from TU Dublin, and we adopted Brightspace in our city campus in 2019, replacing web courses, which was very poorly used, and COVID intervened and encouraged everybody to use Brightspace, but we didn't have time for that kind of structured implementation. And I suppose we have an environment where there's an expectation, you could say, of autonomy and freedom on the part of individual lecturers to use their Brightspace module as they wish. So I was very impressed with the way that you were able to align the setting up of Brightspace with your academic syllabus and other structures and policies. And so it seems to me that you have a very structured approach to this. And again, in TU Dublin, we have a campus in Tala and Blanchardstown, and they had been using Moodle, and we're just completing a migration now of those two campuses to Brightspace. But I think that process has followed the city campus process. So again, it has reinforced that idea that the individual lecturer has freedom and autonomy. And I just wondered if you have anything to say about the benefits of, on the one hand, allowing freedom to the individual to take ownership, and on the other hand, then the higher level of structure. And then following on from that, what's the feedback from your colleagues? Do they perceive that the move from Moodle to Brightspace has been worth it? Are they seeing the benefits, or is that more something that is beneficial to the back end?
Right, thank you for this question. So part one about structured approach. So the structured part, we used to have a CDL center, and that's a undergraduate school, and they were developed as more structured school with better oversight and expectations. Certain areas, like in grad, as I mentioned, faculty own their courses and they use us more as a consultants and not a very close work with us. It's the benefits, I can tell you, I've been an online student. I got my master's online. Better structured, well-designed course definitely wins. And we always get into this academic freedom option or arguments, but design doesn't have anything to do with academic freedom. We are instructional designers. We know how to deliver courses, content online. We know pedagogy. We know principles, theories, and our faculty members are content experts. So I would say, and talking to our students, I would say they would tell you that well-structured, well-designed course wins over complete, mess that might be offered by individual faculty members. Also, I mean, it takes a lot of time to develop a course. I've been teaching, and sometimes when you end up with a course that doesn't make any sense, even for me as an instructor, and I only have 1 week before the start of the term, that's insane. If you having something where you know what's where, how to teach it, it makes such a big difference for instructors and students too. So I think, and this model still exists, and but it's not going to work well, especially if you're relying on adjuncts, multi-section. It's not fair to give something that's disorganized to adjunct instructors. And then how do you ensure that students signing up for section 1 versus section 2, they get the same experience, the same fair grading and everything else? So on your second question about the perceptions about the transition, so initially when we went into this, I think the whole thing, oh, not again. Because, from what I hear, a lot of faculty who moved from WebCT first, then Angel, we have faculty who went through all of that, they were kind of traumatized. But that's why we made sure we provided full support. That's why our provost told us, no, faculty don't even need to ask. You're helping, period. So overall, it was a lot of work, but I think we kind of already forgot about it. We're moving on to different projects and doing other things. So an experience, I think it's better. It does offer more tools. Moodle, we can choose it on mobile devices. Brightspace works better. It's not, we're still asking students not to do assignments or quizzes, but they can easily check in their content, calendar, due dates. That Spanish package is wonderful option and other tools. Things just work better, and Brightspace, like other DLEs, LMSs, whatever, they will be offering AI integration. I think we're chatting about it yesterday, that Brightspace announced this summer that they will be offering Lumi as an intelligent agent in Brightspace. I think Canvas does it too, to help with course design. So if you write up a content, let's say lecture, you can then use that content to help develop quizzes, assignments as a good starting point. It's a big discussion. Yes, ChatGPT is there, but everyone's concerned about intellectual property and the cost. So I think it's overall it's a good move.
Just in relation to the second move from the multi-tenancy to the separate instance completely, and it didn't suit you and you moved, which is interesting because you kind of chose it, Brightspace, because there was multiple tenancy, right?
Right.
What did you lose? Because I know it didn't suit you, but what was there any downside that you missed? Was there sort of access to other instances, or that became lost, or did it not?
I think for us, not really. Just because, so again, we have our own IT service desk, our own department. We have our own DLE administrators. We have a pretty big office. We have a director and I think 4 people. So for us, it's a win, I think, because for other campuses, they rely on SUNY Central for training, support, service desk, DLE administration, data analytics, and we have all this capacity and resources on our campus. And I think all these other barriers that we've experienced, for us, they're much bigger compared to a campus where they use online as just secondary thing. They offer few programs or courses, versus for us, that is it. We have nothing else. We need to be prompt, quick, and as smooth as possible with our offerings, technology, and everything else.
Thanks.
So yeah, I can't really think of anything. Okay, so I can just talk about a few other projects that were final once we got out of conversion. We were able to do some other things, and you're not going to be surprised. You see AI, of course, there. I'm going to actually start with that. This past year, as you saw, pedagogy and practice, again, the committee initiated that. The conversations about generative AI. We had a pedagogical and curricular implications committee that was formed by the provost, and that committee was tasked with writing a report. The committee was, I don't know, 30, 40 people, faculty members, people from different departments, and to write a report on what does it mean, provide definitions, what does it mean for our University of Higher Education, what kind of recommendations are we making for our next steps. So and that committee made recommendations such as provide training for students, AI literacy modules for students, and now we're in that implementation phase. Just this past week, we had the whole week on AI awareness, where we had presentations by our faculty members and personnel. We have Brightspace course sharing resources on AI. We also, my team, we've done presentations on AI for course design and assessment, AI for UDL, which is actually has fantastic opportunities for accessibility. And then we're going to have an in-person event, full academic conference in fall, where we're going to have more meetings, trainings, and then next big step, we need to start developing AI literacy modules and think how to support our students to better. I don't know about I don't know about your institutions, but we have Turnitin, and as you know, they enabled that AI checker back when, but then it was a free pilot, and then they were charging it. But we decided as an institution, and based on what other institutions were doing, what we were reading, how inaccurate that detection tool is, we turned it off. But we're still having a lot of discussions about it. We also do not allow faculty to use any other tools because of the IP issues and inaccuracies too. So the only way for them, and everyone I think struggles with this, is to really be involved, pay attention to students' writing, rethink their assignments. That's what our team, we need to spend more time on going through the course and rethink the assignments. But I think it's on everyone's mind this time, right? Especially in online, so where you don't have that option for oral presentation or conversation. So UX testing, user experience testing, of course, templates, right, library resource. We had these projects back in Moodle, but wanted to wait to move to our own instance, where we developed a course template, as you know, and we're now going through, we developed a set of procedures, personas, questions, and we're going to be meeting with students and testing what works, what doesn't work. Especially, it's important to know for students. And also thinking about from that UDL, we're hoping to work with students with disabilities and to see what works, what doesn't work for them. We actually, it's wonderful to see, but we're getting more and more students with disabilities enroll in our online programs. And we have an additional process. So we make sure when we work on the course that they're fully accessible. Everything from captions, alt text, clear instructions, plain language, but we have additional process where when our students register with our disability office with certain accommodation, our team, we have accessibility coordinators, we get an email, faculty member get an email noting what kind of accommodation is required. Let's say a student is reading a screen reader or using a screen reader. And so we know this, and we go through the course again to make sure that that student can be fully successful in that course, and work with faculty member if something needs to change. We actually got a national award for this process back like 7 years ago at the OLC conference. So another project is refine an online course design process, and I'll show you on the next slide our course revision cycle process. We're always working on it, but as I mentioned, the transition helped us to step back and kind of look at things from a different angle a little bit, and with Brightspace and what we could improve, streamline, and also work in developing action research capacity. So we've been compiling a lot of best practices and reading other people's research, and now we're hoping, we found some faculty members, we're hoping to build that capacity within our team, so where we can actually do some intervention in a course and see, measure things, do some small scale research and see what makes difference, especially with our students. So one example, we have a lot more faculty now integrating ChatGPT or other AIs in their courses, where students are allowed to use it, encouraged to use it for drafting, and then they need to submit all their work. But then we don't know what does this mean for learning outcomes. And we're hoping we might be able to conduct these small studies where one course section runs as is, another course section has one assignment where students use ChatGPT and see what happens. So our course design process, pretty complex. We're using our team-based approach where we work closely with the librarians, academic support, we look at the data available. So every course revision in Airtable listed will include course completion rates by 8-week, we offer 8-week courses, 15-week courses, equity gap data. Unfortunately, we still see a lot of equity gap between different student populations. And we compile all that to develop a scope document. So we know why we're revising the course, what is not working, what is working, what should we leave alone. Then we, so librarians provide their ideas and feedback, and they're a fantastic resource for anything to do with research, resources. Actually, more than 50% of our courses now use OERs, or free of charge textbooks. They found a way to purchase them and utilize grants and other projects. Academic support too, they talk to our students directly, so they provide invaluable feedback on where to incorporate additional links or resource on, I don't know, paraphrasing or citing, or what may not be, if assignment instructions are not quite clear. They help a lot. So we have another checklist. You probably heard there is a QM checklist, Quality Matters, and then ASCR. We've adopted ASCR, but we changed it to fit our standards and our culture. And then we also have that peer review process. So when the instructional designer is done with the course revision or development, the project goes to another person on our team to do the final check with another checklist, which is mostly links, settings, all that stuff. Because once you work on a course for 3-4 months, you miss a lot of things. So that's another opportunity to capture a lot of things, which makes it easy, because the course we work on, they end up being multiple sections. So if you miss that link and it needs to be fixed when the course goes live, now you need to fix it in 9 different places versus just one. And then AC, that's our academic coordinators. They are full-time faculty members or part-time faculty members. They oversee a group of these online master courses, and they can oversee anywhere between like a dozen to 60 courses at the same time. So they schedule revisions, they hire adjunct faculty members, they help adjunct faculty members. So comparing to traditional model that we used to run it, where one instructional designer works with one faculty member, which is kind of quite often instructional designers are ended up, they're used more as a technical support and not as a true consultant. We moved to that more comprehensive model where we incorporate a lot of resources, a lot of feedback. It balances out the perspective, the power balance too, much better. And actually, this visual doesn't show it, but we're going to be working on another yet big project on incorporating Brightspace for program assessments too. I think Brightspace, that's another part where Brightspace offers the program outcomes and program level rubrics, so we might be able to build some kind of system to easily do these kind of high level assessments. And AI, as I mentioned, generative AI initiatives, you can go to that website. It's still, we're still working on it, sunyempire.edu/AI. That's where we're going to put in a lot of our resources. Unfortunately, a lot of them are internal, but there will be some external things, or especially stuff that we find from other American university partners. So that's all my slides. If anyone has any questions, I don't know how much time I have left.
Well, thank you so much, Lee. That was fascinating. So many things to think about there. We're running a little bit over time.